Hey everybody, got a fun video for you today. We're going to build a PCV catch can system on the CX here using a lot of raw materials, some hoses, and hopes and dreams. So anyway, this is going to be to get the oil separated from the crankcase ventilation before we just exit it to atmosphere to try to contain it and keep it from dripping on the ground and the bike. So anyway, stick around. Hopefully you guys find some cool tips and tricks in here, and we'll see how this comes out. Anyway, enjoy the video. Alright guys, as promised, we're going to get back on this oil catch can here. Now, like the overflow bottle that we did for the coolant, we're going to use some Schedule 40 aluminum. And the goal here with this is to separate the oil vapor from the air that's coming out of the engine or the positive crankcase ventilation before we expel it to the atmosphere. Now, in usage for this, if you want to use it on like a motorcycle or a car, anything like that, the idea would normally be to reintroduce the air that's coming out of your catch can back into the intake tract somehow. And the reason you want to try to separate the oil from the air is because that oil, whenever the vapor, it can have deposits on the intake manifold and the combustion chamber and the piston, stuff like that. And those deposits lead to carbon buildup, and that can cause pre-ignition and detonation, and then just create an overall kind of nasty looking intake tract and just dirty valves and whatnot. So this is one step that you can use in a lot of different fronts to help alleviate that issue. Now, with us, like I said, we're going to use some aluminum pipe here. This doesn't have to be all that big for this bike. I have some tubing, and the idea is that we're going to, I'll cut this in half. We'll extend these almost all the way down, and we're going to have the PCV hoses. We're going to have those coming in through the top, and that's going to force the air and vapor all the way to the bottom, and then it's going to have to turn around, come all the way back up, and then I'll have a breather coming out of the top. Now, in the travels that it'll have from the bottom to the top, it's going to have to pass through a mesh. So, like, one thing we could probably use would be like a screen door, screens from a window or a door or something like that. Something where air can travel through it, but that material, it'll have a lot of like grid and stuff for the vapor or the oil vapor to cling onto and eventually drip back down. So that's going to be what actually separates that. And us passing the air through the bottom first is going to make it so it has more time to collect and separate in that manner. So we're going to cut this in half, 2 hoses on the top, and then we'll have a little drain valve at the bottom, and then we'll have a breather up top here, just like a little filter. And then overall, we're going to put this behind the pulser cover in front of the spine. So this is probably something I'll paint black and you'll never see it. It's going to be a real sneaky little item, and then it's going to be easy to access down here. So every now and then, just drain it, empty it out, start over. But let's get started. Alright, we've got the tubes cut. they're going to extend in about that far. So they fit pretty tight in here. They'll be about right there. Probably just enough room to get 2 silicone boots on here. Might be a little bit smashed to each other, but that'll be alright. And then you can see in there we're going to leave about a little over 1 inch to the bottom, probably 1.5 inches or so. And then that should get enough area to circulate, and then hopefully, you know, if there's obviously going to be oil, you know, eventually accumulating in here, that'll give it a little bit of a window for it to actually accumulate before, you know, it would potentially block these and just, you know, aerate even more. So I'm leaving this top piece just tacked in place to kind of give me an out should I accidentally burn through these. I don't want to just go with fittings because, you know, as explained now, I want to extend these to the bottom. Otherwise, if the vent is up top and I just have a fitting up top, then the air can just go in and just straight out without having to go through that mesh and actually separate the oil from the air. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up, set up, and get to welding. Alright, so we've got the cap welded on here. I do have the tubes fully welded and then the cap fully welded. So that got pretty lucky. I didn't burn through anywhere, and this was a pretty difficult weld for me personally, so pretty happy with that one. You can see the tubes extend in there. They stop about right there. Now, in trying to figure out how to get this thing in here, I have to be really cautious because there's like no room. So I got the old cardboard out, and then I think I can with how I've been trying this, I can insert it from the bottom and then like rotate it in, and then I'll have to drill 2 holes on the frame back there, back in that area. And I should be able to mount it just on a single, a really simple bracket here, just a simple plate welded to the tube, and it should be solid from there. At that point, once I have it kind of fitting where I want, I'll go ahead and try to fill this with material, and then go ahead and cap off the other side. Okay, so we're making progress on the catch can here. I have it mounted up. Fits real nice in there, okay? Our mounting bracket turned out good. You know, you saw me weld the plate to the aluminum here, and that just used, I just used that as a point to tap threads to mount the bolts, because you can't get a nut on the back side of that. So underneath, all we have to do is fill this with our mesh that I'll show you at some point here, and then we'll cap it, and then we'll put a little drain valve on this, so you'll have access. You just, you know, undo it from the bottom of the bike and just let it drain into your receptacle, and you'll be good to go there. But the final piece of the puzzle is figuring out the full outlet breather here. Now, what I've been thinking is a nice little piece of real estate is actually back here. So I'm thinking if I take a fitting, okay, and we'll drill and tap the back, the very top of this tank, I can put this on the back near the top, and then I can cut a hole right here and actually fit this filter within, and not drop it, but I can actually fit the filter within it, and then it'll be a nice subtle little filter. I know it's hard to see, but yeah, I think that might be a cool little spot to put it. Otherwise, I would have to do, like, let's say another piece of aluminum and tube and like bent and welded onto the canister itself, and then I'd have, like, I could hang the filter in space over here, or if I wanted to run it down low, kind of next to the whole assembly, I mean, I could do that, but I'd like to keep this, you know, pretty high up. That way it doesn't also accumulate oil. So I'm kind of thinking right back here might be my spot. And then because I'm super OCD, I have to make sure the uni is facing exactly horizontal. So I'll have to tie in this little mounting bolt, which would be good, and we'll have to keep it clocked. And then we'll have like a little standoff right there. And that'll be good. So I think that's what we're gonna go for. Okay, so we have the main catch can assembly built up here. It's test fitted. I have my actual outlet fitting. I have it fitting really well. So this is going to extend out of the back of the frame, and then the little air filter that I have extends into this, and it all fits great. So as of now, I have the spots I clearanced out on the frame. I put a little touch-up paint on them to keep it sealed, and I'm going to use this time, and I'm going to finish the cap. But before the cap, I have to actually put my filter or my oil air vapor separator material in. And for that, I'm going to use this Chore Boy Ultimate Scrubbers. Pure copper, won't rust or splinter. So this I have chose because I know you can use like steel wool and stuff, but the reason I chose this is because it's copper and it's kind of all tied together. So you can't really take it apart too much. Now the benefit of it being copper is that it's not going to rust or corrode. So I was looking at some steel wool, and what I found was, you know, it's just going to be made pretty cheap. So if you don't specifically seek out like stainless, and you just put, say, regular, you know, mild steel, whatever, cheap steel wool in there, it can actually corrode. Whoa. So obviously if you put that in there and you have water vapor, you know, this is going to fill up. And, you know, the whole idea behind this is that it's going to be a sealed unit here. So I have to just make sure I take that extra precaution. So I'm going to, you know, probably cut this up and get a lot of it stuffed into here. And then I'm going to weld this cap on solid. And then from there we'll have our drain valve. But, you know, once I weld it, it's in there. So I need to make sure I get this right first shot. So I think once I get that in there, this stuff should last. And, you know, this isn't like a high density packing or anything like that, so it's not going to be hard for air and the vapor to pass through this. And the whole idea behind this is that these little strands are just going to help separate that oil. The oil is going to cling to these and then eventually fall to the bottom. That's the goal. We'll see how it works. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get this kind of, this cleaned out, and then this, I don't know, like take it apart or whatever, and then put in there, and then we'll get the cap welded. All right, so I've got the mesh packed in here. I went ahead and I made sure I fed it all the way up to the top here. Unsure if I got it all the way up to the top on this side because I packed it in, folded it over, and packed it in on there using the just some filler wire, just something to poke in there. And then I went ahead and like capped it off and just kind of like forced some air through here to make sure that there doesn't feel like there's any resistance, and there is absolutely none. So that's a good thing. That's what we want. We don't want any resistance going in to basically put pressure on, you know, any kind of crankcase evacuation. And I think we'll be good here. So we have a lot of packing. I don't have it all the way to the bottom, and that's just to help me, once this fitting goes in, I'm just giving it a little bit of space and then a little bit of room for the oil to just kind of sit there. So I'm going to leave it just at that level. I used exactly 1/2 of this, and as of now I'm going to go ahead and just put a little just wipe it with acetone once more, and then cap this, welder on, and then this thing is pretty well done at that point. So, home stretch. Okay, so we have our two fittings coming into the actual catch can system. Now we need to actually run stuff from the engine to those fittings. So this is my first or second attempt at using one of the stock inspection cover caps and adapting, like, you know, the breather. I tried to shorten it. This one was cracked anyway. So anyway, could not get the cast aluminum clean enough to do a really good weld to. I mean, it was a long shot to begin with, so I wasn't surprised here. But I went ahead and I picked up a different inspection cover cap, and this is actually, I mean, it's the same size, but this, you know, it's from J. Webster, and it's a piece of billet aluminum, and I've already taken off the anodizing on here. And I mean, you can find these. It's the same thread for like a CB750 tappet inspection cover, you know, whatever. but you can use these on a lot of different Hondas. So anyway, the goal here is to get a fitting on this. Now, I picked up some more aluminum, and I drilled out the center of this, and I have this so it's gonna fit in here nice and tight. And what I'll do is tap this down where I want it, weld along the edge, and then I'll just cut this just so it hangs out a little bit above. And then I may try to put a little bit of a bead around the top or something, just to give that hose a little bit something extra to grab onto. And we'll go from there. But beyond that, I'm going to try to take the rest of this and bend it in a certain way to create a cool routing for the hoses back to the catch can itself. So here we go. Okay, we have the finished product here with the PCV catch can system. So let me walk you through the hose routing real quick. So you see here, we welded this fitting. This is the main flywheel inspection cover, and this is the main PCV exit. So we run the hose straight up and back. And then from here, you can see the pulser cover, which has another hose fitting on that. And that's just a U-bend, goes right up and right back down into the canister itself. Swing around here. You can see our main hose coming back, and then I just did the 90-degree here, straight into the canister. So we have the two inlets, and then from there, within the canister, it goes through the mesh that you've seen. I know this is dark, but you know, you've seen the video. So it goes through that mesh, comes down, and then turns back up, and then exits out of this little filter here. And then as you see, I did a nice little touch. We call this bike grandfather's axe because everything's been modified or changed. So essentially, is it the same thing? So this is the Thesis complex, and it was actually a Facebook commenter who accidentally named this bike because we didn't have a name for it and thought that was perfect. So anyway, yep, comes out of the filter right there. And then should we have to drain it from right there. Pretty simple. Definitely not a simple setup. Actually, now that I think about it, it's simple in the idea of operation, but there's a lot of mechanical parts to get working in this. So anyway, hopefully this thing works well. But I'll definitely give like updates on different components of the bikes as we get more miles on it and stuff like that, and see what works, what doesn't. Anyway, that's what we're doing for this one. And I know some are going to bring up wanting a vacuum signal from the canister to the intake manifold to help draw some of the moisture out. Now, I don't have that. I don't really feel like adding that. This is just, you know, whenever this thing's running, that main outlet on that side, when I'm sitting there next to the bike idling it, I can feel oil splash in my eye. So it's going to force plenty of oil through it, and that's all I need. I'm not trying to evacuate this thing like you know, crazy, or have to draw a vacuum signal off it. You know, I know it can probably be better with that, but you know, this is going to work for me for now. And if we have to change something, maybe I can put a tap in here and just draw some kind of vacuum signal. I don't know, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to rock it for now. I think it'll work. All right, guys, that does it for this one. Hopefully this system makes sense, and hopefully it works well. We won't know until we ride the bike. But anyway, if you like what you see, definitely subscribe if you haven't. Give the video a thumbs up, comment. You know, I get back to you guys, ask questions. You know, give me tips and tricks if you feel like I did something wrong. You know, I welcome them. So anyway, if you want to support Brickhouse Builds further, as usual, I ask maybe head to the website if you want to pick up a hat or a shirt or something like that. They're on there. They'll ship right to your door. Any orders are greatly appreciated. And as always, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.